Welcome back to another Riftbound gameplay video. Today I'm joined by Max on the right, who is playing his signature Lee Sin deck. This is definitely a all-in buffs and go tall strategy, where I am playing the Legion Aggro Darius deck on the left, which is all about comboing cards together in a turn and just getting some extra power on the battlefield. So the Mistfall card is a newer one in our spoiler season that's been very interesting and quite scary for a lot of the body style of decks that play around buffs, because you can effectively play something, buff it, and then rush it to a battlefield in the same turn. So that's something that we do have to be very mindful of. And here we're getting to see the Legion mechanic come together. So because we played the Vi first, Darius gets to use his ability to produce an energy for us, and then we go right into the Vanguard Captain, which is going to put 5 total extra power on the board for us. So this is really the might of Darius and these very aggressive starts that you can get, which is now going to allow us to capture both battlefields on our next turn quite easily and stay ahead in the point total. Max here going for his Lee Sin out of his champion area because he just wants to start stacking up those buffs, making sure that we're getting Lee Sin extra beefy and just beginning up to like the 10 or 11 might threshold that he really wants to see in terms of having a good defensive number. Now, it's interesting, from our hand, we did draw a Draven very early, which is very strong in this deck, as you'll see later, that wants us to have a higher point total. So here we're just sacrificing both of our recruit tokens, going into the bases, getting us the quick points that we want, because we are going to be very strong at attacking. As you're playing the Darius deck, you'll often find out that a lot of our cards are either going to have assault or generally just be weaker on defense. So we are trying to line up a strategy where we can get the early points for as minimal cost as possible. Again, that's where the recruit tokens are doing the work for us, and we can just build up our backline here as we see, or build up our base with the additional 6 might that we are able to play. Again, using that Legion keyword to have a lower cost and reducing it to make it play only off of 4 energy in this turn. Max going into his Lee Sin to take back the battlefield, and what's interesting here is we are playing with the Windswept Hillock, which allows that unit to gain ganking. So Max has a very nice combo here of being able to buff his champion unit with Lee Sin, activated off the Mistfall by paying the body rune to the bottom, and then going immediately over into the other battlefield thanks to that ganking keyword. So, 6 might is a good defensive number right now. We know that he is playing calm spells or reactions, which means he has ways to buff it. So we want to align a turn where Max is either very low on runes or just, otherwise tapped out, but he does have the challenge here, which is going to attack one of our cards out of base, cut us off of our Vi strategy, which becomes a very real threat later. However, this does restrict what he has access to on his next turn. So trying to get under this Lee Sin is going to be the main goal for the Darius matchup. As soon as he loses one of these key pieces out of his deck, his defensive power is going to be a lot weaker. So we want to try to find a turn where we are very confident that we can take out this Lee Sin. Now, this is where I notice that we're trying to go between a setup turn versus a Legion combo turn, and that's one of the other things you'll find with the Darius deck. And this is a setup turn. We're going to be playing out our Draven, which is going to have 6 might at the time of, getting us that additional point, so that on our next turn, we have a very might-efficient unit with the Draven, and then we can go into our Legion combo with our Darius champion, who will then be able to activate itself and effectively give it haste, meaning it can go crash into a battlefield. So as we're playing the Darius deck, it has this very interesting, back and forth or tug of war that you're playing between when am I doing a Legion combo versus when am I doing a setup turn. That's kind of interesting to follow out as you're playing through the course of the game. Max here deciding if he's going to go for his buff is a way to move it with the Mistfall again if he wants to. Here he said, I'm just going to go for the Udyr, and this card is very scary. We were just planning to go all in with our Draven and have it be a very key holder for us, but now that he's showing this Mistfall and he's able to get his Lee Sin back into base and be more defensive, we have to respect this Udyr on the next turn because it can just stun our Draven, meaning we lose a lot of our battlefield power. So Max, realizing that we have a very good attacking turn lining up, he retreats his Lee Sin. He wants to be safe. He doesn't have any runes available to him, so it would have been very easy for us to take out that Lee Sin. However, now we're in the other awkward spot of we're staring down that Udyr. We don't have any way to interact with it. So again, going for what is the least amount of investment that we can apply here to still get our might and force our opponent in a awkward position with this Udyr. And again, there's all the various effects for him, but he really wants to heavily rely on that stun. So thankfully we have the ganking, so we can just move the Legion Reguard across. And we wanted to do a big Legion combo turn to try to conquer a battlefield and do a big might swing. But again, staring down that Udyr, basically negating our Draven immediately, we have to find other units that we can ultimately play out. And here is one of the more awkward, I'll call it, sides of Legion. Sometimes you'll have a hand that just has too many Legion cards in it. The good news is that you can always play one Legion card and then just go into the other one, like we've played on this turn to get the captain effect here again to get 5 more might. But the scrapyard that we were playing, I wanted both cards in my hand, so I just have to play a raw 5 vanilla might unit, which is also fine because we are trying to be the more aggressive strategy, and then go into our other token generator for us to get more might. So here, Max is going to push up his Udyr, again, being a very real threat for the battlefield, and he is able to find the arena bar. So now he has the full combo online, right? We have the arena bar that can buff anything as long as it's rested. We have the Mistfall that then can reactivate it, and then Udyr himself wants to spend a lot of those buffs as well. So Lee Sin, the Legend, allows you to get additional buffs on units as well. So this is now a very scary board that our opponent is representing. Thankfully for us, he is not showing any body runes because he's had to cycle back so many. And we do know that a lot of the calm cards are very high costed for the power effect as well. So we are feeling okay-ish at this point because he has to be more defensive and he doesn't have the body runes to accelerate his game plan. But here we're going back and forth the side of like how defensive does he want to be versus just giving us both of the battlefields. Again, only has the 3 runes to work with, doesn't have any body runes for more of the challenge spell that we saw earlier or a way to really utilize the Mistfall. So it does put him in a bit of an awkward situation this turn of how he wants to promote his battlefield. So he decided that he wants us to still commit something if we want to. So he's putting the 8 total might because 1 plus the recruit plus the buff. And now we are able to look at our entire board and decide, well, we have a lot of might that we can throw around, and we still have that Darius champion that is lurking on the battlefield. So important note here is that Darius wants to be played first because as you go into Legion after that, you get his effect of restanding him and giving him a huge might buff. And these last couple turns, I'll admit, because I am still learning Riftbound and we are still kind of learning all these different legends and different answers our opponent might have. I had to cut out a lot of time here in the recording, but this is a very important turn for sequencing and a part of why I love Riftbound as well. So part of the correct play to here would have been to push up something to the second battlefield. So I could have played that dangerous duo to that battlefield, knowing that I'm going to want to hold both. So I actually just miss out on 3 might here for no good reason. Again, we're very early in spoiler season, very early in the number of games that we're playing. So definitely a little bit of a learning curve. And here where I'm just trying to figure out what is the math that our opponent might have. Calm has a lot of reaction-based effects that he could have, but he only has 3 runes up. So I have to effectively give him a card because if he has the discipline, he's going to be able to knock something out anyways. But I want to make sure that I have enough might to still conquer the battlefield and hold it. Now, again, I could be moving these in multiple waves as long as I have a successful conquer of the battlefield. I can move more stuff to it later. But here I just was trying to go back and forth of, what might our opponent have? And he does have the discipline, so he does get the +2 might and drawing a card here. So unfortunately, he is going to knock out our Darius, who got all that wonderful might boost from the combo that we had of his effect plus the dangerous duo. But we are going to move the puppet, and this is kind of where I realized that I messed up. I should have moved the puppet first so that the dangerous duo could have been played directly to that point, and then Draven here is going to get additional might. So at this point, might for Draven is a whopping 10. Now, we do have to be mindful of, is he going to find another Udyr? Is he going to be able to stun our Draven and just completely negate what we want to be doing? And this is, again, where I just wasn't as confident knowing Max's list in terms of where I should go for my defense. Right, at this point, all we care about is holding a battlefield. That is how we're going to get our 8th point. However, things like various stun cards could be very problematic for us if we try to go too all in, because we are relying on Draven to give us 10 points. So I wanted to make conquering the Windswept a little bit more difficult for Max, that he couldn't just gank across, so that even if he is able to get the ganking battlefield, he's not going to have enough resources to then go across and make an attack at the other battlefield. So you know, thinking about this, and of course, hindsight's 2020 and all that, I should have just King make a battlefield, because at best he stuns Draven, and I still have enough power otherwise, and I could have had the Dangerous Duo on there as well, but I did want to try to split out the might where possible and line up a turn in case he hit a double body rune to go into like Udyr plus haste plus stunning of battlefield plus like a rune prison. I wanted to get around that. However, I also forgot that he's been recycling so much, so I just miscounted how many runes he had. So again, a little bit of a learning curve, trying to figure out what all answers that our opponent might have. But rune prison is a very scary card. I think it is something that Calm decks want to be running anyways, because in a position like this, a single rune prison would be quite backbreaking for us. But again, very early in spoiler season that we're still trying to figure out what are the best cards here. So he is going to move up the Lee Sin, just showing that, you know, how much power it has. It has a total of 9 might and various effects you want to use, but we are going to hold the 8th point for the victory. So thank you, Max, for joining us for this week's gaming session, and make sure to like and subscribe for future Riftbound content. So until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated. See you in the next one.